Hello. This book is called Tao Te Ching. It's by Lao Tzu. Don't like saying that name, but that's his name, so it's kind of necessary. But I decided that when trying to read that, I couldn't really understand it, so what I would do, basically for my own kind of thoughts and just understanding of the book, it's not really a book, it's more a collection of kind of aphorisms, I'll say. There are two sections of it, part 1 and part 2, and it's split into, I think, 86 separate aphorisms. It comes from ancient China, around the time of Sun Tzu and Confucius and all them. So it's very kind of dense to read, and I know it's not dense in the sense of, oh, it's a big long book, but it's kind of, the metaphors are a bit kind of ethereal for you to understand straight away. So I thought I would kind of write it down and think about it, and I'm going to go through the first aphorism line for line to see what you think of my thoughts on it. So the first, I'll read it in full first. The way that can be spoken of is not the constant way. The name that can be named is not the constant name. The nameless was the beginning of heaven and earth. The named was the mother of the myriad creatures. Hence always rid yourself of desires in order to observe its secrets. But always allow yourself to have desires in order to observe its manifestations. These two are the same, but diverge in name as they issue forth. Being the same, they are called mysteries, mystery upon mystery, the gateway of the manifold secrets. So you can kind of see, hopefully I'm not just stupid, but hopefully you can see why I was having a bit of a problem on first reading and understanding that. But I did my best, so here we go. The way that can be spoken of is not the constant way. I think what he's trying to say there is that you have to take each day as it comes if you can. If you plan every aspect of your route through life, prepare for disappointment, because if it's not the constant, if the named way, if the way that can be spoken of is not the constant way, then the way that can be spoken of would be kind of, it sounds to me as if he's talking about a plan, and if it's not the constant way, then it wouldn't work forever. So best laid plans of mice and men and that, but that's what I think that means. And also kind of similar to don't pray in public. Go about your own plan, not everyone else's, because that's kind of double meaning to the speaking part, because you can either be speaking yourself or you can be listening to what others are saying. And if you're saying it's not the constant way, then just go about your own path. The name that can be named is not the constant name. A fish doesn't have a word for water, so something that's ubiquitous is not going to be very easily defined. If it has a name, it's transitory, it's not stretching into the mists of time and stretching back into the mists of time, for lack of a second saying there. We have no idea how the universe works, so how could it be named? And in this context, again, the name means explanation. That's another double meaning there. The nameless was the beginning of heaven and earth. Now, I take this to be as a kind of elaboration or an example of what was said previously in the first two lines. The beginning is not known, so it can't be explained. So the beginning of heaven and earth was unknown, so it's nameless, it can't be explained. If we're working in the context of what I've already said, my thoughts on it are: the named was the mother of the myriad creatures. The myriad creatures just means everything, like everything in the world. there are elements of kind of we are all one type view. We all came from the same mother, so the thing that can actually be named would be the constant way or the constant name, and if that's constant, then we've all come from that at some point. So we're all one of a part of the same whole and all that. Hence, always rid yourself of desires in order to observe its secrets. Desires are earthly ties or named things. If you're tied down, you can't understand the way, the Tao, the endless manifestation of everything. It kind of joins with the earlier lines about not being able to speak about the way, with the only things you can speak about are desires, earthly ties, the things that people understand, rather than a constant thing forever that runs parallel with time, you could say. But always allow yourself to have desires in order to observe its manifestations. This seems contradictory, but I don't think it is, because in order to fully understand the myriad creatures, you have to kind of detach yourself from the desires but still have them, if you know what I mean. Like if you have desires, you should be able to observe the manifestations of the myriad creatures, the way and all that, in everyday life. So it's like a two-tier understanding of it. Yeah, it's a two-tier understanding of the way, etc. It's like a meta-narrative versus individual parts you can look at in separate lights and gain a deeper understanding of life. These two are the same, but diverge in name as the issue forth. There's a duality which must be understood, which I think I've gotten that bit right, the last bit, because he's talking about the duality. So it must be kind of a two-tier understanding of it. There is a duality which must be understood. It comes from the same point like before, so it's calling back to the named as the mother of the myriad creatures. You can have desires, but learn to detach yourself from them, which is quite complicated. I haven't done that or tried, but I'm not saying I live to Lao Tzu's code of conduct, am I? Being the same, they are called mysteries, mystery upon mystery. There is a commonality across everything that has been talked about previously, but since it's unnamed, there's definitely a commonality that he's talking about here, but since it's unnamed, it's understood as a mystery. These are all mysteries. It allows for a myriad interpretation. It allows for you to take kind of any interpretation you want and have it still be right along some dimensions or in some regard. Well, what about in summary? Well, in summary, live in the moment. Don't have too intense a plan for the future, because you'll be very disappointed if it doesn't work, and you can't predict what's going to happen, so it might very well not work. Acting out the way is better than speaking about it, so don't pray in public. Like, act out your code of conduct, your value system, rather than proselytizing from a street corner. Self-awareness. There's a commonality across everything, so everything is linked in some manner, in some way. And you must be able to both have earthly ties and separate yourself from them. That's probably the most difficult bit out of this, that I think, if you were trying to be the perfect Taoist, this is the bit that I would struggle with, like having to be able to, like, being able to observe desires and have them, but also be separate from them. It's like detaching yourself from your body and just being a soul or something. It's weird. But this allows you to understand, like, all these things, if you do them in tandem, it'll allow you to understand the bigger picture as well as the individual parts, so you'll have that coveted two-tier understanding of the myriad creatures that I have also plentifully talked about in this. So there you go. I mean, this isn't probably the most comprehensive look at this that you could have, but I've done my best. I'm only 19 years old, so don't expect absolute genius from me here. But there you go. It's kind of all I have time for today. Although, be on the lookout. On Monday there is the 3rd episode of The Big Show going out. Me and Ben decided to just ask Christian to be a permanent part of the show rather than just a guest, because we thought that was the missing part of the puzzle. It was very funny, so thanks very much. Go and look at The Big Show. We might make a separate channel for it soon. Look at it on Apple Podcasts or Podbean or just on my channel. So thanks very much. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, share it. It's the most important thing you can do. Thank you very much.